Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be replacing these seals here and primarily discussing how new BMWs seem to be much more reliable. So this is a new generation BMW with a B58 engine. It has 109,000 miles. And today we'll be changing the valve cover gasket on it. So it seems like you guys enjoy some theory along with mechanical work on my channel. Here's my first argument. This is primarily for sound deadening purposes, but also could help hold heat in. And here you'll see an acoustic foam, which primarily quiets down the high pressure fuel pump, but it also helps isolate the engine from the cabin for luxury reasons. But in my opinion, it's not there just for sound deadening. Your injectors are sound deadened by the cover with the foam on the back. If you notice around the front of the engine here, there's more foam all around here. And that just seems like it's not doing anything with regards to isolating noise. This is strictly here for thermal encapsulation, to keep heat in the engine as long as possible, ideally for up to 36 hours, to help the engine stay warm so you don't get a bunch of heat cycling in the winter. And also, this car is actually originally from New York and spent 108,000 of its miles up there, so it's had plenty of time to degrade with heat cycling. But this foam is put here to keep heat in the engine, and it's done for emissions purposes. So in my opinion, new BMWs are forced to be reliable because they have to account for emissions, and that just makes everything higher tolerance and better quality. So this of course will be a DIY video showing you how to replace a valve cover on one of these B58s. But I'd like to make the point that if you were to try to buy these gaskets, they're hard to find. Even though this car came out 5 years ago and plenty of them have 100,000 plus miles, the original valve cover gaskets aren't failing. And we'll see the condition of these when I get in there, but it would appear that there's no leaks, even though there's a lot of miles on here, because of the systems they've put in. Better design, plus also avoiding heat cycling. So I'm removing my aftermarket air intake, but if you had a factory air box, you would take the top off. Take out your mask. I checked the service history on this car, and it really didn't have to visit the dealer its whole life. It only went for a couple codes, emissions related, and they appear to be oxygen sensors. Pulling up on the lower air box. Back here, we're gonna have to remove this cowling. So to do so, just grab at the seal and unclip it from the shroud. Back here, you have a positive power wire, which is clipped in. You gotta lift that up and out. Along the back here, you have 10 mils. Just rotate them about 180 degrees. And you can lift up on it. You have to get this metal bar out of the way. This is an E18. Same story here. Up here, there's a couple of rubber plugs. There's two more E18s over here. This will allow you to lift up on the bar. Take it away. Now this hard plastic piece has to come out. So you have a series of 10 mils, one up here. Over here there's a little push pin that holds this rubber onto this hard plastic piece, so you gotta get that out first. You can just pull this out of the way. Now we'll remove this foam at the back of the engine here. Now if you haven't already, now would be a good time to go ahead and disconnect your battery. This is in the way just with regards to getting all this stuff away from the front, so we'll remove this. So to start with, you're gonna just squeeze here and here and remove that. There's a wiring harness clipped into it, so you can pop that off. The stuff's brittle, so you gotta be careful. It may be less brittle than you're used to given the improvements they made. Looking down in here, there's clips that you gotta lift up on. Once you get that clipped up, you can rock this back. Using a long pair of needle nose pliers, I'm just gonna extract the clip altogether. Now around the front here, these hoses lead down onto that tube, so we'll give that a squeeze. From the front side of this, there's an electrical connector. And then I'm gonna pop off this blanket for the electronic wastegate so I can disconnect this electrical connector. You just push back on the white piece and you can pry it out. You can lift this up and out of the way. It frees us to get this completely removed. So that'll free us up to disconnect electrical connectors. So all of these, you have to get the clip removed slightly, clipped toward the front of it, and then you can press on it and take them out. So we want to be able to get all these out of position. So if you look here, there's a little plastic thing that holds it. You can undo these O2 sensors. Same story here. Remove the connector back, and then it'll allow you to rock on it to get it unplugged. So normally these would clip into here. You'd have to put a pick tool underneath it to be able to get it forward, but these have been damaged. not by me. But this part has survived. It's just the sensors themselves that are not in good shape. Otherwise you'd be messing around with a pick tool trying to get it rocked out of position. So we go here, and you just press here and here. That way we can get the connector lifted off. Same story here. You pull the connector back and rock it to get this off. Around the front of the engine, you have similar clips. You lift up here and here to extract that. And then over here, it's clipped in along the top of the valve cover. You have a connector here. This is restricting me being able to move it out of the way, so I'm going to take this out. Right here, I'm going to squeeze this side to side, pull it out, and we'll get it out of the way. Going after the connectors on the charge pipe. Over here, more electrical connectors. Next up, we have the connectors on the coils. Okay, I'm going to try to take out this foam. We have the fuel pressure sensor here. We have our injector plugs. Okay, over here we have two 8 mils for the ground. You got to remove. That'll allow you to lift up on this entire harness. Now there's just the injector plugs. So this can just unplug. So hopefully it goes without saying, but I'm removing anything that seems to be in the way in terms of being clipped down to the valve cover, etc. Next up, using an E8, I'm taking out the ignition coils. So my argument was, first of all, avoiding heat cycling for the sake of emissions and having an engine that will come up to temperature relatively quickly is going to help with plastic and rubber seals from degrading and becoming hard and brittle versus being malleable and pliable, because it's the heat cycling hot to cold that would cause it to go bad. Imagine just bending a piece of metal back and forth. As you expand it and contract it, you are causing the molecules in the material to separate and then creating weak spots. So if you can make an engine that will hold on to its heat, even in cold climates, you have a good chance of it being more reliable. And here you go, case in point, a B58 with 100 and some odd thousand miles. You can see how dusty it is, never been touched, not a drop of oil anywhere. That's kind of unheard of. One thing that Japanese motors were always really good at is avoiding oil leaks, in my opinion. So I feel like new BMWs are more reliable because of their heat encapsulation. These are 17 mils. I'm going to crack them free for the high pressure fuel system. Be prepared for some fuel to spray. You could treat this video as like a follow-up to a video I made many months ago that was really popular, saying that new BMWs seem to be more reliable. And I was going by the way they were constructed, the engineering of them. To me, they just look like they were built differently. And I think if you're to try to source these valve cover gaskets, they're hard to find. They don't even ship for a couple of days. They're stocked mostly at dealers and whatnot because they're not failing. So therefore, there's no high demand yet, even though this engine came out a long time ago. I'm using an E6 back here. Now we can lift up on this fuel line, set it aside. We'll take out the high pressure fuel pump now. There's two T30s. I'm going to do them slowly, bit by bit, because it's spring loaded. This will be one of the seals we're replacing as well. Just lift up on it. There's a roller rocker in there that should hopefully be low enough down. You're not gonna have to fight it with the spring tension when reinstalling. We've reached a point in the video where I'm not super pumped about. Right here, I'm taking out these fuel rails. But there's a special tool you're supposed to use that for the B58 is like $500 almost. And you can use a B48 one and kind of halfway get it on there, but it's still not ideal. So unfortunately, I don't like to do this, but we're gonna attempt to remove it as a unit and reinstall as a unit as well. We'll see how this goes. I may end up needing to get the tool and then I'll be cutting over to me saying, hey, make sure you get the tool. But for now, we're gonna try removing these and reinstalling them as I've done in the past. So now, normally you would take the top part of the rail out, take these screws out as well, but there's stuff to talk about here. So I'm gonna start by trying to pry these out, and I'll let you know if that even is feasible or if this was a really bad idea. I'm all about getting the right tools or getting knockoff versions of the original tools. But right now, at least, since this is not a very common repair or problem, you'd have to spend about $600 in specialty tools just to follow the book. So I figured, let me put this video up and see if I can get it done in a clean, proper way by not following the book. So it would definitely take a few more years for the standard, cheaper options to pop into the market. So I'm just gonna see what can be done here. So we're gonna try to remove that front rail now. To be clear, I'm not advocating for this method. I'm just letting you know that I'm giving it a try to let you know if you should even go here or not. If this is a good idea or a bad idea. So yeah, not super impressive looking to do it that way, but I took extreme care and it's possible to get them out. And what I'm hoping for is to be able to cut these tube seals off, put new tube seals on there, and then just kind of like what you do on an N20 where you squish the seals down, get them ready, and then you just use the force of this piece to drive them home. Because you got 4 points to apply even pressure to get the 3 down into place. And the reason why I want to do it this way is because you need specialty tools to pull them out, to pull these injectors off this rail. You got to be conscious of the orientation on the injector. You got to make sure this flange is installed properly. You got to make sure that the spacing is perfect on that. They make a special tool to insert in here to set the distance. There's a lot of little things you got to be conscious of. But if you just take this out as a whole and change the tube seals, I think you can get it done without buying a specialty tool. Let's see. I'm not advocating for this. I'll put a link in the description for the proper tool. I'm just showing you it can be done. Let's see how it goes. So I'll be honest, I kind of hate that I had to demonstrate this is even possible. I'd much rather tell you guys just to buy the original tool and all that. It's just kind of expensive, and this really wasn't too bad of a job to do it this way, but you know, I just can't advocate for something that differs from the book. But chances are, if you own one of these cars, you're only ever going to do it once. Do you really want to spend the $400 or $500? You know, that's kind of on you. So I'm ready to pull all the screws out and get this valve cover out. But we have another specialty tool that would have been required back here. I won't be able to demonstrate what I'm doing until we get the valve cover out of the car and I can show you. But well, you got to take out the phasers back here and you need a special tool to do that, but I'm going to try something. That's what they look like, and you got to make sure you save your seal. I probably should have got a set of these, but worst case you can change it with the valve cover on the car. With regards to removing them, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down the middle, 9, 10, 11, 12, like so. Okay, I believe I got them all now. I'm going to try prying up on it. This car was not maintained at the dealer according to the service records, which normally would be eyebrow raising, but it had its oil change periodically at an independent shop regularly. Seems like they went by, they didn't really wait for the indicator, they were just going with time. That's what you like to see, because if this car didn't have its oil changed regularly with 100 and something thousand miles, then these would not be this color. They would be bronze. So I'm not too picky on used cars that I buy. I don't expect them to be super well maintained. The whole point is I'm getting a deal because I'm buying something that I'm going to make perfect. But I do like to see a silver reflection under the valve cover when I take the oil cap off. So when you take the oil cap off, you can see in this area. It's important to vacuum out any sand that could potentially fall in and to use a microfiber to get any bits and pieces. And we'll go ahead and replace the seals on the valve cover. All right, so now I'm gonna pull the valve cover gasket out of here and we'll see how stiff it is given the mileage and how much longer it would have lasted. You can tell it's not new, but remarkably decent condition for the mileage. The only giveaway would be these little tabs here that are kind of stiff, plasticized. But I can pull it out in one shot without tearing it apart. I would say that's very impressive for the mileage. And I think it's due to the fact that these engines are more reliable because of their heat management system. Just the temperatures that are targeted and the heat cycling that's avoided. I'd really like to give this a really thorough scrub down, but I'm afraid that we could get oil into the PCV system, so I'll have to refrain from doing so. Here's a seal for the high pressure fuel pump. All right, we'll get that brought back over to the car and start reassembly. So I do have to show you guys one thing. So word of warning, when I was removing those actuators, this popped out and fell to the ground, luckily, all the way. This one too. So I wouldn't be able to show this on camera, but this connector faces toward the bottom of the car. and as you rotate it, it would lock into place. So you can get it started with a small stubby screwdriver by getting something going in here, and then you can just use your hand to get it the rest of the way out. And once you get it to this position, you can just leave it there and then use the harness to pull it up and out of the way. It was very easy because the seal is not present right now. But as you can see, this just wants to pop out upon removal, but it's fine once you've installed it. So you're gonna have to take some care when you're undoing it. Maybe put a cloth underneath it so that couldn't fall. Starting the torquing sequence, so the first one in the middle to the right of the oil cap. Once they're all mostly finger tight, we're going to go to 10 Newton meters. Number 2 is here, 3 is here, 4 is here, 5, 6, 7, 8, number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're all good. I'm just going to double check them all, make sure they all feel about the same. All right, I'm good on the torquing sequence. I'm going to reinstall the actuators at the back. Bring it over the high pressure fuel pump. Like I said, there's a plunger and there's a roller rocker down there, so you want to make sure that it's not in its topmost position, otherwise you have to rotate the motor before you could bottom that out. But as you can see, this one mostly goes down flat, so I'm good. We'll torque these two T30s to 12 Newton meters. All right, now we're going to tackle the injectors. I'm going to cut off the old seals using my steel cutting tool. This I would recommend you get regardless. Using my steel expander tool. That's why I blew out the holes, I cleaned it all up, I used a Q-tip and I made it crystal clean. So there's no debris that could have potentially been introduced to the cylinder or marred up the new seals. All right, so am I proud of showing you this way? Not really. Do I think it will work? Yes. You know, at the end of the day, most people drive the thing home using the actual clamp. So this is just a little bit of a different design. The spring tension kind of comes from the way they're mounted, but as a whole, if you evenly screw it down, it should be fine. Let's see when I start the car. Okay, the car's all put back together. I'm going to give it a start before I slap that engine cover on to make sure there's no leaks or any issues. All right, it sounds great, leak-free. So there you have it. Now you know how to change a valve cover gasket on a B58, and hopefully you won't need to do this until your car has 150,000 miles, and this video will just be up and ready for anybody that needs to do it. It wasn't a very hard job, but you definitely have to be careful if you're not going to use the original tools that are recommended for the injector. If this is the first video you're catching on mine, please consider subscribing. If you liked it, please give it a like so it'll rank higher. Thanks for watching.